Excellent. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Em Lewis. I'm the Adult Programs Librarian here at the library. And we are so very thrilled to be hosting this event with the Camden Conference. First up, quick housekeeping note for those joining us on Zoom, which I think might be that camera right now. It might be that one. So please keep your cameras and microphones off for the duration of the event. And if you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to type them into the chat. And then everyone here, also welcome. And we're not going to be doing a Q&A at the end of the discussion, but if you have any one-on-one informal questions to ask the kiddos at the end of the event proper, you're welcome to come up and ask at the end. Noting that we do need to be wrapped up at 7:45 at the latest because the library closes at 8. And I think that is actually it from me. So thank you again for joining us tonight, and thank you to the Camden Conference for co-sponsoring this event. And I'm going to turn it over to tonight's moderator, Jennifer Cross, a dedicated Oceanside teacher who has long championed global studies through her participation in the Camden Conference in the Classroom program. So please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Jenny. Thank you for joining.
Well, she just told you what my name is, so I'll cross that off, that part of my, thank you, that part of my opening. I'm the Academy Coordinator and Student Government Advisor at Oceanside High School. I teach also a few courses, and Oceanside High School, for those of you who don't know, is in Rockland. I'm always amazed sometimes when I say Oceanside High School and people say, where's that? And I think, here, in this city. So yes, we are here in Rockland. I've participated with students in Camden Conference in the Classroom program for around 5 years. I'm pleased to speak tonight on behalf of Camden Conference to welcome you to tonight's program, both you here in this room and also over Zoom. We would like to thank the Rockland Public Library and the Friends of the Rockland Public Library for making these programs possible and for hosting us again this Camden Conference season. The Camden Conference is a nonprofit, nonpartisan citizens forum driven almost exclusively by volunteers from our community. The mission of the Camden Conference is to foster informed discourse on world issues, and in keeping with their mission, they offer a series of community events leading up to their annual weekend conference. These free events are intended to provide a background on the yearly topic and to touch on areas related to the February conference that may not be covered in that very, very short 3-day format. It's short, but it is packed full. And by the end of it, I am exhausted, but incredibly well informed. So I'm a big, go to it. It's awesome. This year's conference, their 38th, is called Democracy Under Threat, A Global Perspective, and it'll take place February 21st through the 23rd, live at the Camden Opera House and streamed at our own Rockland Strand and in Falmouth. For more information on their organization and the 2025 conference, you're welcome to check out their website at camdenconference.org. Again, world-class, amazing speakers. That is astounding to me every year that I'm sitting in Camden and these incredible people are there. Tonight, as part of the Camden the Conference Community Events Series, it is my pleasure to introduce this fine panel of students from Oceanside High School. These remarkable young individuals have chosen to dedicate their very valuable evening hours, and especially I think I hear that there is a chem test tomorrow, and there might be some AP Lang that needs to be done, and et cetera, et cetera. So thank you so much for giving some time to us today. And they're going to be engaging in this issue of critical importance to us, to them, the state of democracy, both at home and around the world. They'll be sharing their insights, concerns, hopes, as we explore this really important question. What does the future of democracy look like through the eyes of youth? Their willingness to participate in this dialogue reflects not only their commitment to civic engagement, but also their belief in the power of young voices to shape the future. So please join me in welcoming this incredibly dynamic group as they share their unique perspectives on this important topic. You guys didn't know you were so special, did you? Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to first ask our students to introduce themselves. I want them to share. I didn't tell them that I was going to do this, but here we go. I want them to share their name, their grade level, and since our school encompasses multiple towns, I would like you to also share where your home is, like what town you live in. That'd be great. So we'll start right here.
My name is Ava Curtis. I am in 10th grade and I live in South Thomaston, Maine.
My name is Andrew Bernardo. I'm in 10th grade and I'm from Thomaston, Maine.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Placides. I'm a senior, and my home is right beside the Flow Jiu-Jitsu in Rockland.
My name is Henry Weymouth. I am a junior at Oceanside High School, and I live right up the street in Rockland.
My name is Lakin Perrin. I'm a junior at Oceanside High School, and I live in Owl's Head.
My name is Sienna. I am a senior and I live in Cushing. I got my own.
Yeah.
My name is Scout Bookham. I'm a senior and I live in Rockland.
My name is Max Rutter. I'm a sophomore and I live in Rockland as well.
Okay, great, thank you. So you'll see it's a nice mix of multi-levels. So we're gonna get different perspectives. And also I love the fact that it's very representative of our district. I didn't even plan that, but hey, that was pretty good. Okay, so let's just kick this off with our first kind of question. I will tell you that the kids have had the questions. We didn't have a chance because we had planned to talk about it this morning. We were gonna have a nice little like roundtable discussion and everything. And yeah, 2-hour delay. So they have thought about it, and I love it because it's going to be just this incredibly genuine conversation that I hope you'll appreciate. So first of all, let's start with Andrew today. Andrew, what do you think are the most pressing issues that are facing youth today?
So a lot of the pressing issues specifically in America facing youth today tend to include the political climate and where a lot of young people view their rights are going. For example, in the LGBTQ plus community, there is a conversation being held that any possible rights that we had before may be at risk now. Same thing for people of color as well.
Lakin, would you like to give us your perspective on this?
Okay, yeah. So when I saw this question, I immediately thought of expectations, just in general, like all expectations. I think youth are held to a higher standard than, I don't know, than they probably should. They're put through a lot of us are, at least, just expectations. And when it comes to democracy, that too, like to start developing opinions that might not be their own. Like they just there's an expectation to have a certain opinion, and just kind of my main point was expectations in general. They can really like be intimidating to the youth.
I find that really interesting that what you're saying there with the expectations idea of it, and the way that you just connected it with democracy, with like the pressure as a young person, because you have so many different forces kind of coming at you, whether it be your peers or the media in general, which we'll talk about a little bit in a second, but also like you said, like the influence even of your home, right? Like we're asking you as youth, like, how do you feel about democracy? And you are like, geez, give me some space to even figure it out on my own. Is that how you kind of are feeling sometimes?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Do we put too much pressure, Joshua, do you think we put too much pressure on youth sometimes to have thoughts about democracy, or to be like, sometimes, I don't know if you guys hear this, the next generation to vote, right? The next generation to have a voice to help fix the problems. Do you feel that way at all, Joshua?
I think as the youth, certainly there is kind of pressure for us to kind of decide what the future is for America, like especially at this stage where we're kind of at the I think most of us from a very young age were kind of taught to ask these political questions, climate change and democracy, and I don't know, from mind you, from a very young age. So yes, I think there's a lot of pressure for the youth to kind of be the changing aspect of America.
Anybody want to add to that? Good. All right, so going back to, we were just talking about the influences, and like you just mentioned, this idea of one of the major influences that all the adults are gonna know, I'm about to say this, social media, right? Social media and how it has helped or hindered youth involvement in democracy. What are your thoughts about that? Let's start this one with Sienna. Sienna, what are you thinking about, like, that idea of social media and how social media is kind of impacting youth and their thoughts about being involved in this sort of political climate?
Yeah, so I think social media definitely opens the world of a lot more information to be available to youth, that there's a lot of different perspectives that social media can offer, but there is also a lot of misinformation that can be offered through social media. For example, like algorithms are designed through social media to project to simply, the algorithms of social media are projected to what a user likes or interacts with. So the more an opinion, if they interact more with an opinion on their social media, it can be seen as more valuable to the person on social media, so they'll see more of that information the longer that they're on social media, so that can limit perspectives at the same time. So for example, if someone on the, we'll go left side of the perspective only has only looked up on social media left perspectives, that's all they'll see. Same with the right, if someone on the right is more leaning towards the right with those information that they look up, they'll only be given right-wing information on their social media pages, which can limit perspectives and cause more of a closed mind when it comes to understanding why the other side sees information as they do. It can be cause for confusion too, as why aren't you seeing the same information that I'm seeing? Why aren't you seeing the same perspective that I have when we have access to the same information? But in reality, the algorithms of social media don't allow for that open perspective.
Totally true, yeah. Scout, do you want to add anything to that? Or even I don't know, even a different perspective?
Yeah, I definitely think that social media can be both kind of a good and bad thing when it comes to being informed as young people. I think it opens a broader community that is not always accessible through, we live in a small area, and being able to access more people with more diverse ideas, also get information. But I also think, as Sienna was saying, that you can be kind of put in a bubble of the information that you're getting. And when it comes to misinformation, things that are untrue, I think that sometimes people have a habit of just taking it at face value without any further investigation or looking at other sources. And I think social media makes that easier, to just see something for a second and that's what you're gonna think. And I think that can be dangerous. Yeah, definitely dangerous to have this information so easily accessible that people are just making snap judgments, leading to more conflict, leading to more division, and more misinformed people of all age groups, but in the younger generation when it comes to social media, for sure. But I also think that it opens some more doors for community and communication, and if you find somehow the right algorithm for yourself, you're having multiple perspectives. But I think that it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, and that you need to be cautious with the information that you're trusting, and not just taking the things that you're seeing to be totally true just because they're showing up on your Instagram feed.
Thank you. So I was just thinking about this social media, and I've been seeing a lot of dialogue right now that is talking about that the campaign approach now in our politics needs to start considering how they are going to utilize social media to reach certain, particularly young people, right? How do we utilize social, like they're realizing, oh, the traditional pathway that we used to do, which is putting commercials on television for this generation. Like how many of you guys, I'm just gonna, hands up, how many of you guys spend a lot of time watching traditional television? How many of you guys watch your shows that you watch, movies, whatever? How many of you stream it? Yeah, so accessing accessing information, the things that we are entertained by, the things that we do it through streaming now. And that was one of the dialogues that was had in this election was, oh, wow, like we aren't reaching this certain generation of people by the traditional methods anymore. On the same point, and I'm gonna get to this, on the same question I have, when you access news, if you ever access news, how many of you access news through watching a newscast on television? Okay, right, good, kind of. How many of you access your news through that nifty Google or Apple app, the news app, right? That pops up, yeah, okay, yeah. So how many of you access news on TikTok? Please tell me no. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now I have to ask, how many of you access your news on X? You know. I know it's you. I know it's you.
Well, the thing is, I used to, but I
Yeah.
moved to Blue Sky now.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Yeah.
that Blue Sky. Yeah.
Because I got
yeah.
suspended on X.
Okay, moving on. Anyway, so what I want you to think about is, I want to ask you now, and I think I'm going to start with Max on this one. Okay, Max, what do you think motivates young people to engage or disengage in democratic processes? Like, we as adults, how do you think should be the effective way to try to motivate young people to participate in the democratic process? Like, is it through making better and better Instagrams and TikToks? Or is there, like, how do you think is a way to engage people?
Well, I definitely think that the social media thing, I know for my personal experience, I saw a bunch of political videos and articles on social media throughout the entirety of the October, November, the campaigns and stuff. I just think that to help younger people get more engaged in like politics, you just gotta give them a reason to tell them, convince them that it's a beneficial thing. Because I also saw there's a lot of people who think that because you're younger, that your opinion doesn't matter, even if you can't vote. Even if you can't vote, your opinion does matter, because at the end of the day, you're the next generation. For most of us at this table, we're like, I think the most of 3 years away from being able to vote. And that's pretty close. So I just think that you got to teach the younger generation to value their opinions a lot more, and then just give them the straight up, truthful information on politics as well.
Yeah, Henry. Yeah, I haven't called on you yet. I'd love to hear what you think about that. Like, how do we engage? What gets students or young people to want to be engaged in the political process?
Yeah, well, personally, right now in our AP seminar class,
Nice
we are
shout out there.
talking
Thank you.
about, we've been discussing, like roundtable discussions about democracy and how it affects other countries and everything. And I believe that talking about these things, they're fun, and it's fun to communicate peacefully about our beliefs and our opinions and try to convince other people almost about what we believe. And I think that getting like these AP classes available, just a seminar like available for CP honors, everyone in this class in our school, would be able to spread like these views of democracy, because you need to talk about it to experience it, I think.
Okay.
So broadening our experiences with roundtable talks in school would, I think, benefit that.
Okay, great. Anyone else want to add to that, the things that motivate you, Lakin? Yeah.
Well, mine's kind of really similar to Henry's. I was just gonna mention about how in my government class right now, we went through the government part and just learning about, cause like government was, I didn't really care. I was like, I'm just living my life. Like I wasn't really thinking about it, but this year we like started to learn about all the steps and all the different opinions and stuff, and that made a huge change for me. It's like fun to pointed out in different classes, like you can just make all that connection. Like that's what's been the biggest change for me, was learning about our past and stuff. It's just, it makes you actually recognize it when you see it. It's fun. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Ava, how do you feel that young people are being represented in politics, in decision making?
I feel that as a young person myself, it's both a double-edged sword in this kind of way, as there are young people coming into politics, but there isn't enough people trying to kind of be like a chameleon and get their opinions out there and get their elections. A lot of young people, I've realized, they firmly believe in their beliefs, which is incredibly admirable, but also in a government as America's today, it's incredibly difficult to stick to those beliefs while getting elected for offices or even government offices. It's incredibly difficult for people to have completely left-sided views without being able to adapt and have more right-sided views for votes, and as well as just getting their name out there so people know that it's not just them alone in their beliefs. I believe that it needs to be much more lenient in how young people believe today, instead of, as much as I wish it could be like this, just firm beliefs in what you believe in with no compromises.
Thank you. Anybody else want to think about that question of how you think that youth are being perceived?
Yeah, I think that there is often a lot of misconceptions about young people in politics, and I also think that there's not a ton of great representation, and that like we have really valuable opinions and beliefs, and that often the things that will be best for us, given the fact that and young people are the next generation, and that are being educated and are going to be the people to next take up these roles and positions, that our voices aren't always considered or heard, respected, or that the things that will best benefit us are not taken into consideration when making decisions a lot at times in politics, or that us as young people are not always respected or considered in these kind of major decisions that do have a really big impact on our lives as well, even though, and I mean, we can't vote. None of us at this table are old enough to vote yet. And it's hard to feel like you can be involved in your political process. And there's so many ways you can be, but when that major part of it is, and often seen as like the way to be involved in your political process, be able to have influence over decisions that are gonna affect your lives, it's like a pretty challenging position to be in, of being a voice and being an advocate for youth and young people about the things that are important to us without having that ability to enact change in the way through voting.
Does anybody else want to? Yeah, you both want? Yeah. Why don't we start with Andrew and then you, Joshua?
Yeah, so, pardon me, I have a cold. going along with stuff that my classmates have said before, I also think that quite a few adults just don't take youth seriously when it comes to them sharing their opinions or like their talks on politics. Oftentimes, youth get the response of, "Oh, you're too young. You don't really know what you're talking about," and I feel like that's kind of bringing down the not morale, I guess, but the sense of having youth stand up and talk about what they believe in, because they're constantly being shut down left and right and center. Um, and I believe that that kind of needs to change and that young people should be represented and that a lot of the older generation should give us young people more time and maybe and more consideration for us to like speak our truth.
Yep, I agree. I think culture. I think at the very least in Filipino culture, we are often told to be silent and kind of respect your elders. Kind of have the same exact opinion almost as your elders. And I think from my experience of it, that's really it really shuts you off. It kind of like prevents you from having a voice. And my answer to the question about if we're being represented, I think not much, because the truth is voter turnout wise, 65 and above, that age group is the vast majority of the voter turnout, and the age group with the least turnout is still 18 to 25. And at the same time, I think I think we are growing a voice. It seems like we are growing a voice, as young people, because you see all these youth activist groups, like from climate to I think labor too. I recently saw a group for slow fashion, which is against fast fashion, which contributes to climate change. But yeah, there's a lot of activism popping up especially in our generation that could rival the 1960s, which I think is very, very, can be good.
I love that. That's a great transition to this next awesome question, which is, I wanted to know, like, since we just talked about like activism, I want to know how you personally engage with democracy, how you personally engage with democracy, and it could be like involved with student government, involved with programming, like other organizations. It could be activism. So I just would like to hear from you and for you to be able to share with them the ways that you already now as young people are doing that. So I'm going to start with Henry on this one. Henry.
Well, for a little under a year now, I've been on the Rockland Energy and Sustainability Advisory Committee, and along with Joshua. And this committee, it's like a democracy almost. You shout out what your ideas, and then the group kind of consults them and thinks about it, and then you come to compromises about what you want to get done. And I think that's a large part about democracy, is just like coming to compromises and talking through answers and not just shutting everyone else out. Yeah. What is there?
That was
Can you
the
read
big
that
one.
again?
Yeah, that was. What else are you involved in that's government?
Yeah. I'm also a member of our Oceanside student government, and we've recently been changing a little bit, becoming a bicameral. So we have like two committees, a school improvement committee and a spirit committee, and I think it's working out very well to kind of like be separate committees, but like then we come together sometimes and we discuss and then come to compromises about what we want to happen in the school. So I think it's working out very well for our school.
All right, let's hear from Joshua, who's right next to you. Joshua, how are you being involved in democracy actively,
Sure.
besides drinking your eggnog?
This eggnog is very irresistible.
I
Anyways,
understand that.
So the most direct way that I've influenced the democracy, and by democracy I mean I think the government in general, is the Rockland Energy and Sustainability Advisory Committee, which is I think again the most direct way to influence the government because we are established under one of the charters of the city constitution, I think, and in that kind of a committee, we discuss all of these proposals from school gardens to bike to work days, to even divestments, for the government to kind of like remove their investments from local, coal using entities, which may kind of contribute again to climate change because the more carbon you have in the air, it kind of creates a greenhouse effect, but it makes the planet warmer. That's the most direct way. The other way that I also influence my role the role that I play in democracy is discussion. In real life, most of my discussion politically comes in the classroom, specifically in AP Gov, where it's only just three of us, but we are kind of a diverse kind of set of views. The other day, me and one of the other students in that class, we kind of debated over electric vehicles and their viability, and then we've kind of found that often the answer is not an either or. Nothing in the world is either or. The world's too complex for that. I think instead of an either or, it's a spectrum. But you can't really sit in the middle either because you get nothing done. If you sit in the fence, nothing gets done. And beside from real life, I also partake in online discussion online. Formerly through X, but Elon Musk just got offended and suspended me, so now I'm in blue sky.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, all right. Scout, can you please share with us how you are involved with activism, with democracy in a real way?
Yes, mine's not through X. I think I've, in many different ways, in many different forms. First off, I'm a student representative on the RSU13 school board, and I think that's been a really incredible opportunity to participate in democracy as well as in my community, larger community, and my school community, of being a voice for students and for young people on that board, and learning more about kind of how it all functions, having a broader view of things that I didn't understand before, and then you're on there for meetings and then you're understanding how it all works. And as I also this summer participated in an internship with the League of Women Voters and Democracy Maine, and I think that was a huge part of my increased understanding of democracy and voting and how to be involved. Part of a youth council there, how to be involved in democracy when you can't vote, which voter registration drives and advocacy, making sure people have information, getting to kind of pick the topics, areas of interest and exploring those more, collaboration and teamwork, uplifting and supporting communities, as well as I'm also a member and a student liaison between student government and the RSU13 school board, member of the school improvement committee, as well as I think just generally being interested in democracy and government, informing myself through school and outside of school, participating in activism and protests, to make sure that my beliefs and my opinions and my understandings are able to be shared, participating in discussions and conversations. I think there's plenty of ways to be involved, but they're not always super clear of how to get there.
Andrew, did you want to share?
Most recently, my involvement in my community regarding democracy is this panel. And like my classmates, again, the classroom, specifically in my AP seminar class, we have a great many discussions about democracy and doing presentations and research and all of that. And that's how I like to spend a lot of my time contributing to democracy. I simply do a lot of research about it. And I research a lot about democracy in America, democracy in the Philippines, and other countries of interest. Also, I am the president of our debate club at Oceanside, and I involve myself outside of the community through organizations like the Maine Youth Power movement and Out Maine, which is centered here in Rockland for LGBTQ plus youth. And I spend a lot of my time just, again, doing research on these topics so that I'm well versed, so that when it comes to panels like this or any other discussions that I'm having in other classes, I have what I like to consider well-rounded and well-versed opinions.
Just because I don't want them to be totally left out, my other two government people. Right, Sienna?
Yes.
What are you? Your involvement. I know, sorry.
So
You didn't sign up for that one, but now I'm making you talk.
it's okay. Okay, yeah. I also am on the student government. I'm the representative spirit committee. So I'm the opposite of what Henry is. The school improvement, I'm the spirit side, but it's definitely good to come together during meetings, like to give sort of the democracy side when we both come together and like discuss how we feel about like what's going on in like school improvement versus school spirit. Like we recently just did a spirit week, and Henry's been working on different like how paper is distributed, recycling in the school and gardens, and it's been composting, stuff like that, all that school improvement stuff. So it's good to get both sides of that in student government in terms of democracy.
Great. And Lakin, what are you?
So I am the junior representative on the RSU 13 school board. So I think that's probably, I just had my first meeting last night. It was exciting. Yeah, so that was my first major contribution to democracy. But I'm also on Student Gov Spirit Committee, that's with Sienna. Yeah. But as I was learning about government in AP seminar, I'm thinking to myself, like, all these different types of people, like Machiavelli and all those types of people,
Oh, gosh,
all the different ideas.
My heart.
Yeah, I was starting to realize that democracy is almost everywhere. Like, I could relate it to in sports,
Yeah.
like to my soccer team.
Yeah.
I see a lot of democracy in the fact that you need to be a team, but there's obviously a bunch of different opinions. You need to all find a way to come together for one goal. And so that was my immediate, it's everywhere, it's everywhere.
I love that. Thank you. That's amazing. So glad I made you talk. Yay, yay for me. Okay, these are so good. Okay, so let's take this to a little bit broader. We've been talking about like our like zeroed in, like, focused in contributions to democracy. So now I'm going to force you, let's widen it out to this sort of global perspective that we can't avoid because we're in a global economy, a global world, globalization. And so, the things that you are seeing in this world, one big issue that we've mentioned already tonight was climate change. And we know that, it is a worldwide problem, right? It's something that countries are struggling to come to agreements on how to handle it because we have to all handle it. Only one country can't carry that burden. And so we're thinking on a global level. So I guess my thinking is, how do you think global challenges like rising authoritarianism, rising inequality, misinformation that we see like globally, how do you think that is affecting even your views on democracy? How are you feeling? Are you feeling hopeful, terrified, not really sure, like in kind of holding pattern, what's going to happen next? Do you think that democracy has the power to overcome? Like, does it have, in your young opinions, which is, I know, still developing, do you have hope that democracy can weather? That's my question. Who wants to, let's see, who wants to take that one? Henry, you want to take that one?
I got an answer.
All right, you got that one.
So, I mean, if we look at it, like, we're so fortunate in America to have the amount of freedom that we do compared to other countries under authoritarian leadership like Russia or places like that. But we can see that in our own country, there's problems and issues like abortion and things like that, where the people have voted against or for it. I get confused there. But the people have voted for pro-choice, but we see that our democracy or our leaders, I believe, have voted like against it. And it's like over half of the country has voted for it, but yet it still consists in some places. So, I mean, really, how does that relate to democracy? Like, the people have voted for it, but yet our country does not support it. So in some aspects, I feel like democracy is representative in our country, but not representative in some aspects as well. But at the end of the day, it's our I guess it's our responsibility as the people to vote on what we want. And yeah.
Who wants to, anyone else? Yeah, Joshua.
To make sure, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, sure. I said, like the challenges that we see rising authoritarianism.
Yep.
In global areas, inequality, like, we've talked about that in class, like, growing inequality between those who, the 1% and, the rest, right? And even in, we've always seen that kind of inequality between developing nations, right? And Western, more developed nations. And also the issue of misinformation, which we had talked to before, but those kind of challenges that we're seeing, like, how does that affect your thoughts about democracy? Do you think that democracy has the power to overcome it? Can we use that as our tool? Or do you think, we might be in trouble? I don't know.
All right, so first and foremost, I won't deny, I think, the very, very obvious. We are in trouble. We are being bombarded by fake news. We're being bombarded by climate change, bombarded by threats of authoritarianism. Last November, believe it or not, in my opinion, the country, the democracy of the country voted to destroy its own democracy, which I still don't get. And also, again, climate change, I think I've said that already. But we're being bombarded by all of these challenges, and we keep wondering if democracy will shine through and kind of, bring us still to a better future. And I think despite of all those kind of like challenges, I think we still need to have that optimism, because to have too much pessimism, at some point you're gonna want to give up. It's not gonna be good for your mind. You're gonna want to give up, and that's what they want. That's what let's say the oligarchs want. That's what the authoritarians want. And so I think we must keep this. I should call this rugged optimism, despite all the challenges, despite all the all the stuff that's been going on in the world. We still remain optimistic that our voices will be heard, that our optimism will shine through, and we will lead to a better future. Thank you.
Good job. All right, I know. Does anybody want to follow that? Go for it, Lakin. Do it. Do
I don't
it.
want to anymore, but
Yes, you do. Yes,
mine
you
was just
do.
gonna be short and sweet. Like, I've definitely had thoughts about it, like late night thoughts. You're like, what's happening? Like, when you hear about politics and stuff, you're like, is my future, what's it gonna look like? Is it gonna be really bad? Which, as of right now, it doesn't seem too well. You know what I mean? Like, it's like with abortion or whatever, it's not going in my personal favored direction. But then I feel like our generation is strong. Like, they have voices, and at the end of the day, I think, like what Josh said, we're gonna shine through. Like, I have so much faith in this generation that they could probably overcome anything. Yeah.
Oh, you're giving me goosebumps right now. That's amazing. Anyone else? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think along similar lines, but it's pretty scary the world, our country, kind of a rise in the threat of what's going to happen to democracy. It's kind of a terrifying thing to think about, and like something that we are very constantly confronted with. And like as young people, of like this is our future, that kind of at a precipice, a tipping point of like what might happen. A lot of unknowns that contribute to discomfort and fear around that issue of if democracy can prevail globally. And I do think it can. I have hope, I have optimism, but it's not blind hope. It's like have to do the work to make sure it sticks, and it's not easy. And it's not always something we want to do, and it's not fun all the time, but it's necessary, and it's probably going to take quite the fight. But it's a fight that needs to be fought, or else we're kind of giving up our future in some ways. So yes, it's really scary, but I have hope that we can prevail if we, like Lakin said, if we're strong, and I think we are strong, and I think our generation is strong and has voices and is willing to use them.
Thank you. I just have two more questions. And I'm going to throw this one to Max first. So we've been talking about the global, we have heard that. I do love the rugged optimism. Well done there. Yeah, that's great. All right. So, but one of the things that really I'm thinking about is that we know that there are places in our world, Henry mentioned Russia, but we know there are many other places where where democracy is struggling or is non-existent, and there are young people there. Right? They're young people just like you are. I think of young women in Afghanistan, right? I think of, those places where women and young people are like in these places that they are no longer seeing their rights being honored. And so my question for you is, what can you learn as young people? What do you think you can learn from youth that come from those less democratic countries?
Well, by watching what happens in those other countries and what those governments are doing. Like, another shout out to AP seminar class, but we learned about failing democracies, and my group covered Myanmar and how they were under control of Great Britain as a colony for, very long time. And then, except for like 2 years in 2010, they were underneath military rule, and they're under military rule again in a state of emergency. And it's really interesting to learn about stuff like that and see what the people in those countries are trying to do. Despite being killed for their religion and for uprising, they still gather in the streets and yell and fight while at the point of a gun. They're fighting for their rights no matter what's in danger. And I think that that's really inspiring, that I think as a young person to see other young people doing that, like in the face of terrible oppression, is a really cool thing to see and definitely something to learn about.
Excellent. Thank you. Ava, did you want to say something?
From these less democratic countries, I think we can learn lots about how has their democracy instilled these ideas that, only the upper classes can vote, only these certain genders or certain races of people can vote. And I think we can learn so much about how poverty and the economic crisis of these other countries can affect even our own country through ideals that don't align with a lot of people's. Because a lot of these countries that are less democratic, they tend to have different even governing styles as well, where it can show a lot of people, even in America or other similar countries, that what could happen if one wrong person gets elected or someone takes complete control over the country or similar countries by a way that they did in their own country, like similar to how charismatic that Nazi Germany was, how charismatic Hitler was, how they were a good country too for a long time. Then someone like a very charismatic leader was able to come through and get his opinions out, and that changed the entire world. And these less democratic countries can also do that as well. They might not seem like they have a lot of power, but many together can really have a strong effect on the entire world.
Anyone else want to mention? You want to?
I think we can learn from the youth in these less developed countries this lesson of resilience, because so many youth, I will use the Philippines as an example because it is my home country. So many youth in the Philippines, especially under both previous and current governments, are still being oppressed, and their voices are still being silenced. Given now it's not nearly as bad as it was before, it's still happening, and but you still see them out in the streets, you still see them protesting, you still see them talking about it and trying to stand up to their government. And I guess an example, not really of our Gen Z generation, but the keynote speaker for the Camden Conference, Maria Reza, she was jailed for sharing her opinions, and she's still out there, still sharing them. And I think that that's an inspiration to many young Filipinos. I know it's an inspiration to me, and I feel like there's a lot to learn.
Go ahead, Joshua.
I think all the prior examples of Myanmar and all Germany and all the other kind of failing kind of democracies, they serve as our lessons as current day America. You know, we're steamrolling down a very similar path, in my opinion. But I think I want to bring you today kind of this perspective from a democracy that's also about to fail, which is the Philippines, which we're both from. So in all measures, the Philippines' democracy is much, much worse than American democracy. Because first of all, corruption exists at every single level of government. Corruption is that embedded into the country. You think of a tree and its roots, and the roots cling to the soil. That's like our corruption in the Philippines, and a lot of that corruption can lead to journalism kind of being silenced. Journalists are being killed in the Philippines. They are being silenced. Quite recently, no, not quite recently, it was 4 years ago, wow. 4 years ago, President Rodrigo Duterte kind of denied to renew ABS-CBN's kind of, license to kind of broadcast to the Filipino people, simply because ABS-CBN, they just criticized Duterte. In fact, I think they're one of the only news networks to criticize Duterte's rhetoric. And so, there's a lot of flaws in the democracy in the Philippines. But, and I'd like to circle back to what I said earlier. There's a lot of rugged optimism as well. When I was still there in the Philippines, I saw a lot of vibrant activism still, and I think that's a lesson that we can kind of bring here to America. We still had that rugged optimism to kind of criticize the government's actions, that despite the candidate that we wanted to win not winning, we will still stand strong. We will still kind of fight for a better future. So that's the first lesson that I want to impart, coming from a Filipino. The second one is sometimes these campaigns, this is kind of what do you call this? An unpopular opinion. But sometimes these campaigns that we kind of support, they may become too elitist, and it might be kind of attacking. In the Philippines in 2022, our candidate that we supported, Lenny Robredo, was defeated by Bongbong Marcos, who was the son of a dictator in the Philippines in the 1980s. So the son of a dictator got elected rather than a woman, which is crazy. But I think looking back, the biggest lesson to be learned is, no matter the message that you want to deliver, it must kind of resonate with the common people. And I think our message kind of failed to kind of resonate with them, because it did not. I'll admit that our economic platform, Robredo's political, economic platform was not kind of solid. And so that kind of failed to resonate with most of the Filipino people. And instead, they were swept by disinformation instead. So that's number two. And number three, and this comes from recent incidents. So something crazy is happening in the Philippines right now. The vice president of the Philippines just delivered a death threat to the president. That's crazy. So they ran together under one kind of name, Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte. They're two powerful oligarch families. The Dutertes and the Marcoses, they collaborated with each other and they won the election in 2022. What's happening right now? They're infighting. They're fighting like pigs. Sorry. And sorry, it's the truth. And I think that's the second. That's the third lesson. Is that when all of these oligarchs, oligarchy is kind of in the rise in the United States right now. You see all of these billionaires. They come to the presidency. One billionaire got elected, and there's a lot of billionaires in the cabinet, and oligarchy is on the rise. But they rise because of greed. That's their biggest tool, but that's also their biggest weakness. Is their greed might lead them to kind of infight with each other and destroy themselves in the process, which may give us some hope in kind of defeating them in the future.
Thank you, Joshua. And now you have a history of the Philippine government. Thank you. It was amazing. Okay, last question. We're gonna wrap up, but I'm gonna do a quick one. I'm not gonna call on any one person. I'm gonna ask for raising hands. Should we lower the voting age in this United States? And hands up if yes. Okay, we have a few, all right, and we have some not so confident. What?
I would need some time to think
You
about
need to think about that one.
Weigh it up, yeah.
Okay, well, I personally think that if these guys are voting, I'm like, let's lower the age. Thank you very much. So I want to thank you guys all for giving up your time and like being put under pressure. You did did they not do amazing? Weren't they amazing? Yeah. So proud. Yes, so there isn't a question and answer, but certainly please feel free to come up and ask them any questions, and they're very polite and lovely. So.
Can I just ask a question? It's just yes or no. You obviously are all going to vote when we're all going to vote. Made that clear. Do you believe that we should adopt the Australian model of mandatory voting, that everybody should have to vote?
That's a really good question. One pro. What? I didn't say any jokes, sir. But okay, stop laughing. Okay, fine. But one pro is definitely you increase, the say of everyone, the citizens in the government. You definitely do that. But con, some people, actually a lot of people, they don't have the best political knowledge. Because, for example, in America, believe it or not, political knowledge here, on average, is dismally low. Did you know that it's more likely for Americans to name the Three Stooges than the three branches of government? I can't name the Three Stooges because I'm not from here. I think there are.
There are, yeah.
There are, but
Well, the state of Maine requires government to be taught at the high school level. It's one of our standards. Yes, a very long time.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm taking that right now AP Gov. I think
Yeah.
there are others here.
And they're taking up an, yes, so yes, in the state of Maine, that is part of the requirements for the graduation standards, is you have to have a government course. Yep, and it's been, gosh, I don't want to talk how long I've been around, but yes, I mean, when I was in high school here, I had to take it, so, yep, that was a long time ago. So, yes. All right, thank you very much, and well done, everyone, well done.
Have a great evening, everyone.